Inexpensive, easy to find, essential. People are paying more and more for records like Cosmic Funk and even expansions these days, but this is the jam right here. Hypnotic, pulsating funky grooves, big sounds, textures. This is just a monster record. Check it out. A very eclectic collection of tunes from Chico Hamilton on solid state. I think this is a really underappreciated record. Exploratory, unique. Nothing really sounds like this. This has been called a transitional record, and I really think it is. But I also think that can be a bit coded as sort of a soft dismissal and undersells this album. The title, The Headhunters, actually predates Herbie Hancock's record, so Chico is in fact the OG with that name. I think this is a really unique record from Pablo's catalog. Many have blended Afro-Caribbean themes and jazz, but nothing quite as specific to Jamaica as Monty Alexander. And overall, the effect works really well, very mellow, with island touches, steel drums, but not really straying too far from the bop lexicon. This includes Andy Simpkins of the Three Sounds, Ernest Raglan. For $10, a real cool record. Check it out. Horizons, a great record steeped in modalism, a term that is thrown around quite flippantly these days in jazz. I think it's become somewhat of a misnomer. But this actually fits the bill of 60s modal, very Coltrane-esque. Ira Sullivan has largely been forgotten. I don't know a ton about him. I've had this for a while. This is on Stash Records. He plays all sorts of instruments on this. A great LP with Eddie Gomez and Hank Jones. But this is a really cool title. And you can even score a white label promo like this for $10 to $15. Aren't jazz records cool? So if you're new to the channel, you've probably already noticed I share jazz records that you can find at least somewhat affordably in record stores. So do subscribe if you like this sort of thing. I do these videos every now and then. Looks can be deceiving. This title is easily found among junk bin cannon fodder, although it's anything but. In the 80s, Grover gets way too smooth for me, but I wouldn't really call this a Grover Washington session, and even Burrell is pretty subdued. To me, this is a Jack DeJohnette outing because it's a rhythm section that really cooks and propels this forward, often with kind of a Latin feel. Dope, overlooked gem. Here's another often skipped 80s release that might look a little passé at first glance, but is really just solid post-bop. This could easily be from a decade plus prior on Muse or something, but here on MCA Impulse for $5 to $10, likely in your local record store right now. Fully acoustic, Freddie Hubbard, Charlie Hayden, Billy Higgins. Keep an eye out for this. An interesting grouping of players come together on this title, Alto Summit, led by Poindexter, Lee Koonitz, Phil Woods, Leo Wright. This is on MPS, initially released in the States under Prestige, but whether you grab that or this re-release that came out a couple years later, it's pretty cheap. I think the German issue is a bit more. But these guys, they often play on the same tracks. They have very different styles that contrast. Pony's more blues. Lee, of course, is a cool god. Just an interesting, unique date for not a lot of money. This is an excellent forgotten record on Inner City. El Bicho Feo showed a number of these Inner City original releases a while ago, and I think this was the coolest one. So this is not from Steeplechase or East Wind or a third party. This is an OG release on Inner City, and it is mellow. It is grooving, a little funky. I guess Chico Hamilton said this guy Gregory James reminded him a bit of Gaber Szabo, which I think is pretty accurate, but without the Romany thing. Percussive, chill, dope record, well worth picking up. Just a stunner that perfectly embodies what Groove Merchant was all about. Just soulful, unpretentious, gritty, featuring 2 organ players and 3 guitarists. Very cool. One of them, of course, being the great O'Donnell Levy, whose records are still very much attainable, often just the price of a tone poet, maybe a little bit more than that. This one actually had a pretty successful reissue recently, and some of these are available stateside. That's a great record. Windows is one of my favorite. I don't see this one shown as often, but of his, this is one of my favorites. And this one's actually cheap heat. Time has changed. I've shown this one before. This is just like funky disco madness. But anyway, this album is a classic. Giants of the Organ in concert. No frills, just grooves. And there's no shortage of organ records between these 2 dudes, McGriff and Holmes. Many I think can be passed on, but this one's a smoker. Here's another Groove Merchant from George Freeman, titled New Improved Funk, but this is really more of a soul jazz record than a funk record. Freeman, though, tears it up on this, alongside a crew of Chicago guys, John Young, Marion Booker, who worked a lot with George Benson. Everyone understood the assignment here. Fun record, very inexpensive. Absolute fire tracks on this Deodato LP, Whirlwinds. This comes off the heels of his CTI work, all very affordable, easy to find records. These aren't my go-tos personally of this era. I like his Muse release a bit more, Donato Deodato, but these are, of course, critically acclaimed, worthwhile albums. I think of these sort of like a lot of CTIs as sort of gateway albums to 70s jazz, especially for collectors who maybe have 25, 50 jazz LPs. They might have Miles and Monk and some of the Blue Notes. But increasingly, when they go to record stores, there's just less and less they recognize because those modern jazz legacy labels have become so scarce and otherwise so expensive that when they discover a record like this or a similar CTI, it's just a revelation, right? It opens up a whole new world to other labels and stuff they've never seen or heard before, especially because CTIs are so plentiful and affordable. But yeah, anyway, this is an imperfect, sort of silly record, but some of my favorite Deodato tracks are on this, and you can trip over this at record stores. Check it out. Excellent trio jazz from Billy Taylor on the Mono Black Atlantic label, which looks so cool. This title borrows from Taylor's work on an earlier session released on 10-inch, the latter half filled out from a 58 session with Ed Thigpen and Earl May, who went on to do some great records for ABC Paramount that collectors don't seem to care too much about either. I have Evergreen somewhere around here, good record. But wonderful traditional jazz outing, inexpensive. Check it out. Makonda, Ken McIntyre, Open Horizon. Much of this is influenced by Afro-Caribbean themes. McIntyre plays sax and flute, bassoon. One of a few steeplechases he did in the 70s. All are excellent, affordable, largely ignored. This one is available here in Inner City, also quite affordable on steeplechases if you can find one stateside. But I think the pressing quality on this Inner City is actually quite nice. In any occasion, great record. Check it out. I like this record a lot, and I'm not really a huge organ fan. I do like many of Ralph Towner's own records, R.I.P., I think he just passed. But this title, which includes the great Elvin Jones, I think complements what organ does best with a bit more groove and movement and fun. This is on Vanguard, not at all expensive, easy to find. Check this out. Anyway, That's all I got for this time, folks. Until next time, I'll catch you later.